Guide with Michael Folks from the History of Sport Fishing. As usual, on a Tuesday, we're both here. And thank you, Promar Ahi, for supporting us and being there as our sponsor of our Tuesday shows. Without Promar, we can't do this show. So thank you very much, everyone at Promar. And we are going to be showing some really cool products from Promar today while we're talking the history of sport fishing, while we're talking fishing, while we're just shooting the crap and answering your comments. And we may have a guest celebrity appearance here today from another Tuna Club member. He's trying to figure out how to get on here. So if he joins us, that will be wonderful. And if he doesn't make it, we will definitely bring him back another time. But I think he'll be able to pull it off and jump in here with us, Michael. I think he's going to be able to do it. So what's going on over at the History of Sport Fishing?
Just plugging away. Just another great day yesterday. Great day yesterday for the whole country. I think the whole world as well. But yeah, we're plugging away over here. Doing some technical adjustments for the requirements to get up on Amazon. It's like Amazon's getting ready to put the series up, so that's kind of exciting. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So we're doing going through all the technical requirements, which are mind-boggling. We don't make it easy.
Yeah.
Adding closed captioning, a few other things if you wanted. So hopefully in the next week or so, we'll get an answer back.
That would be awesome. That would be absolutely phenomenal. Gang, we asked you guys to do your homework and go down the rabbit hole and check out the History of Sport Fishing and then figure out if you have any questions for Michael. And again, we're opening this up like we do all the time. If any of you have any questions, they're popping up over here on the side. We will do our very, very best to answer them. Hey, Renee. Hey, Brett. Hey, EJ. Hey, Tim. Everybody that's watching, thank you all for following along with us. It's every day it just blows my mind a little bit more as we watch your Saltwater guy just explode on every platform. It's very humbling for me, especially Michael knowing me from the very beginning days when the industry wouldn't even talk to me. It's pretty amazing to be standing here now, being able to interview people like Michael Folks and the other gentleman that's possibly going to join us today, and all the other people that come in here on the show all the time. It's crazy. Bob, we see you hanging out, but we don't have. Do you have audio, Bob? No, nothing. I don't know what's going on. I see over there on the side. But gang, every day this thing just gets bigger and bigger, and it blows my mind, and I can't thank everybody enough. And I thank you every time we go live on this show. It's just very humbling for me coming from where I came from. I know a lot of people don't think I'm humble, but you have no idea who I am if you don't think I'm humble. I get it. I understand. Look at that fish, Mike.
That was yesterday's fish. That's 30 pounds, isn't it?
Yeah, look at that weather. Cabo San Lucas.
Where were those fish? Under Patty, Dave?
No, there's no patties down here. Water's too hot. No, those are structure fish.
170 feet
of water.
Oh, my
on
God.
On the yo-yo iron. Hello.
I'm going to let the dog out. Hang on for a second. She's chomping at the bit. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, gang, we'll do our very best to answer any of your questions. If you watch that docuseries, The History of Sport Fishing, like I asked you guys to, a lot of you ordered it last week because we put that out there, and we're going to do it again. If you guys order The History of Sport Fishing, on anytime you order it, it gets you into a raffle type of situation. We're not giving away anything for the raffle, so it's not a gambling type of situation, but we are going to do tours of Michael's museum where you see him setting there. So yes, last week was a big deal, and Daniel from Real Quick won, and he's going to be accompanying me for a tour of Michael's museum there. Actually, it's his garage, but it is, you can't imagine what he has inside there. So we're going to keep that going though, and we're going to award another person to come with us that day, and we'll give that away at the end of this month. Then next month we'll do it again for the month. but you have to order the History of Sport Fishing, and it's super
Yes,
easy
sir.
to
All
order,
you have to
right,
do is
Mike?
go to the historyofsportfishing.com.
Yeah, or I got the QR code I'll throw up here on the screen. It's very, very simple to get. And there it is. Purchase the series right there. We can track, because the magic man, Elliot Andrews, who takes care of me, takes care of Michael also. So we can track exactly who you are. And as you order, your name will be put into a hat, and we will give away another tour. We're going to take a little group of people. We had no idea what was going to
It's a
happen.
pretty phenomenal response. I always thank you guys for jumping in. It was I was thrilled to have someone come down and take a look at the office too. I think you'll really enjoy it. So took years and years and years of collecting swap meets, garage sales, antique stores, tackle swaps. I mean, anything I could grab my hands on that was vintage, I bought it. So about 20 or 30 years of collecting, and we've got a pretty nice assembly of what Mike Ferrier calls the deckhand special. When he looks at all my gear, a lot of these guys collect the high end stuff. The stuff that's documented as being, having Zane Gray's fish with this stuff, and it's expensive. But stuff I have is what the deckhands would have used back in the day. So a lot of really cool wrap rods and great old tackle and jigs, abalone inlaid bone jigs and stuff. It's pretty cool. A lot of history.
And the great part about it is, because you watch the History of Sport Fishing, then you're going to get to go with us over there and check it out. And you're going to understand how absolutely spectacular it is to see these things that were the evolution of sport fishing, were the history of sport fishing. Like the reels right behind your head right now, the collection of Penn reels from that big.
That's a 16, from a 16 all the way down to the 1/0. And these started in 1936, I believe. The Senator line came out, and it was quite a challenge to get to find a reel of each size. Surprisingly enough, the 1/0 was the hardest reel to find. The little 1/0 was hard.
Renee, if you purchased the whole thing, if you bought the whole thing, all you got to do, Renee, is give me a call afterwards. If there's a reason why you're not getting in there, we'll figure it out. Elliot can help us, and we'll figure out why you can't see it anymore. You should be able to see it all if you purchased it. Maybe you can't find your password or something. It's definitely something that we can absolutely fix. So just when we're done, Renee, today, give me a call. We'll get you back in there so you can see the rest of it.
Yeah, we'll get you taken care of, Renee. If you signed up, you're good for a year, no problem. There's a reset password too at the bottom of the home page. If you're having trouble, you may need to reset your password. I'm not sure, but Elliot will check it out. And Dave definitely has brought a few of us to tears with his opening statement there for this film. I think it surprised him as much as it did anybody when he started crying there, remembering his dad. I mean, it's just, and every one of us that fish has a memory that's similar to that. We've all, our grandparents or our parents or someone close to us took the time to take us fishing when we were young. And I thank God they did, because it changed my life. I know it's changed Dave's.
Oh, big time. Can't even imagine life without fishing. Just like I got to go fishing yesterday with a big influencer, Luke McFadden and I, and we caught those yellowtail. If it wasn't for my dad taking me fishing when I was 3 years old, none of this cool stuff going on in my life today would be happening. Fishing is an unbelievable thing, and it's hard to imagine that we're setting up that precedent or precipice of not being able to fish, the word that Frank uses in your docuseries, which is absolutely scarier than hell to think about it. And like you said, yesterday was a phenomenal day for the country. Let's hope and pray that Mr. Donald J. Trump can take a look at this sport fishing thing and take a deep look at it and see what an impact it has on the American people, and that they want to abolish fishing, which is just
insane.
Absolutely crazy.
The good news is Donald Trump Jr. Started following us here on History of Sport Fishing, so he's got his eye on it. So we'll see. Keep fingers crossed.
Yeah, and I think one thing about Donald J. Trump is he pays attention to what his children have to say. Barron was a huge impact on him to win the election. When he went on Theo Vaughn, he went on Joe Rogan, that was because of his son. That was because of Barron. So maybe he'll listen to Junior, and that would be absolutely spectacular, because we are so close right now, Michael, to losing this sand bass thing. It's the scariest. I mean, they already wrote down the proposal. It's on the Fish and Wildlife's website. They show that they want a zero take on sand bass. It is going to be super imperative for all of us to show up on this. We'll call it a Zoom meeting. I know it's not a Zoom meeting, Wayne and Donna, I know, but we're going to call it a Zoom meeting, for lack of a better word. We don't have to go to Sacramento. We're all going to be able to log on. As soon as the link is available, we'll show it every day on our show. But if we didn't have that sand bass, we wouldn't have the history.
I wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be here. Half the landings in Southern California wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the sand bass. We were really a staple all the way through the earliest days in the 40s and 50s. Sand bass are a staple. Sand bass, barracuda, and bonita. And then, it was
absolutely
crazy.
It's the lifeblood of our industry, gang. You guys, I need you all to be involved in this. It's such an important time in our lives. Such an important. It is absolutely amazing that they are even thinking about it. I don't know, Elliot. I'm sorry. I don't know what happens here. It says it's on.
Avery, that's cool. I didn't know Vice President was a big fisherman too. Hopefully we've got the right team in place to help protect this sport, because like Frank said, and Bill Shedd said in the interviews, that the single greatest threat that we're facing as an industry is the extreme environmentalists, the extreme left environmentalists. And if it's irrational. So much of their thinking is just simply irrational. Sand bass is a pretty tasty fish.
Yeah, they taste just like fish. They taste like fish. I don't know what it is. I don't know why they want to take them away. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, you were saying last time we talked, Dave, it's all everything's secular. I mean, it's cycler. I don't know, whatever that word is, where it just cycles. I was talking about one of the skippers on the guy that ran the Western Pride for years.
Doug Farrell?
Yeah. And he'd been doing it for like 35 or 40 years. And he says it just comes in cycles. There'll be a 5-year, 10-year cycle where we don't see them. We won't catch a sand bass. And then all of a sudden there's thousands of them jammed up on the flats there. So I think a lot of it's water conditions, temperature. They're just a migratory fish.
No, that's 100%. I had Todd Mansur on here last Friday, and he was talking about the water cycles and all their food and everything. And when you're in a warm water cycle, it is what it is. It is what it is. But nobody wants to understand that the ocean changes every single day, gang. Every single morning. Michael ran charters for years. I ran charters for years. If we thought that one day we would go out there and it'd be exactly like it was yesterday, that day never happened.
No.
And there's 10-year cycles, there's 100-year cycles, there's all kinds of different cycles, but we're in the microwave world now where we don't have 5 minutes to wait for anything. If it's not exactly like it was yesterday, the powers to be want to shut it all down. It's pretty scary.
Yeah. Well, Warnie said that we finally got some allies for us as the anglers. So we definitely we've got outdoorsmen in the White House. So
yep. Yes, sir.
Hopefully we're going to see so many changes in this country, we're not going to recognize it in a couple of years.
That would be nice.
It'd be so sweet.
Finally, some allies. Absolutely. Gang, if you guys have any questions for Michael about the history of sport fishing, if you guys watched any of it last week and you got any questions, like we said before, we're going to try to answer your questions as we cruise along. I'm going to keep throwing the QR code up there, but what we need to talk about right now is Promar. Promar Ahi USA is a phenomenal company that understands the needs of the fishermen. They make everything you use on a daily basis. You can't get away from them. You have no idea when you go on your boat, your bait scoops, your nets, your gaffs, your sabiki rods. They're all made by Promar. I got those cool Akara jigs, just got them yesterday. These things are a phenomenal lure. These things catch everything. And this is that small one that Justin uses all the time when him and Darren and everybody are out on the boat catching bass, whitefish, spotted bay bass, and yellowfin croaker. The Akara jig is something you definitely have to go check out. And then this is my favorite live deception flash lure, the little pinhead size one. This thing, I catch bonefish on it in the mangroves. We catch tuna on them when they're only locked in on the micro mini.
Bait. Yep.
This is an unbelievable little lure. It looks just like a little pinhead anchovy. You can cast this thing a mile. It's a phenomenal product. You got to check these out. Go over to PromarAhiUSA.com or check out the QR code on the screen when you're checking out. Put in the code YSWG and the number 22 on your way out the door, and you're going to save 15% on all the products. While you're in there, though, look around. You're going to be blown away by all the products that are made by Promar that you can't even believe those are Promar products. Check it all out. Go over to Promar and see what we're talking about, gang. You will not be disappointed. I promise you. You're going to be blown away, actually, when you get over there. And because of the fact that they're a major sponsor of your Saltwater Guide, they're always taking good care of us. And the products are second to none. They're going to be out fishing with Justin on Saturday night on the live show, Brian from Promar. You'll see a lot of cool products out there with that. It's going to be unbelievable. Yep, I know. Hey, stuff happens. Stuff happens.
That bait looks like two eyeballs and a wiggle.
Yeah.
Little micro bait.
Someday I'm going to get to the level that I'm an absolutely perfect human being, but I haven't made it there yet. But I'm hoping one day I'll be there. This is live podcasting, gang. There's going to be stuff that happens. That's why most human beings on the planet Earth do not do live podcasting, because they have to edit everything and make sure all the stuff's working perfect. I just wing it, shoot from the hip. I think that's why we have 800,000 followers. That's why we're so successful. My buddy Elliot and I, we make it as real as it could possibly be. And yeah, I'm happy. There's a lot of questions, a lot of comments coming in. Michael's trying to read them as quick as he can.
And Matt Ryan wrote in, what's your favorite episode? That's a tough one. I think probably chapter 7 is my favorite, because we talk about, we really address a lot of the, like for women, breast cancer, Casting for Recovery. We talk about women that have been diagnosed with breast cancer, and there's a group called Casting for Recovery, and they bring these women in and they teach them how to fly fish. And it's transformational for these women. You know, it gives them a group to work with in an environment they never, very few of them have ever been in before. So we talk about the women in fly fishing, we talk about the healing nature of the sport, and then from there we jump into the veterans and healing waters and the veterans, and it's like Anthony's doing out here with War Heroes on the Water. It's a phenomenal chapter about really how much the sport means and what it can do to people above and beyond just catching fish. So I think 7's my favorite. I love chapter 9 when we introduced bass fishing and with Ken Duke, and we introduced Ray Scott and how he started BASS. And then ultimately, I think my favorite chapter is chapter 12, the final chapter in the series, when we talk about conservation and children and the future of the sport. I think those 3 chapters really mean a lot. And then, you know, we got Bill Poole in chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I mean, there's great stuff in Southern California in the first few chapters where we really talk about the birth of big game fishing and how ideas were shared between the East Coast and the West Coast. So I think I'd say 7, 9, and 12 would be my go-to chapters.
You know what, Michael? I'm trying to look through here, and I don't remember what episode it is, but the episode where you get into the history with George Washington and the boys and the club, is that first episode or second? It's right in the beginning.
right in the first. That's the first
First
episode.
episode. Oh my gosh. That's the most powerful for me because I've used so much of that stuff from that first episode where I tell everybody our founding fathers knew how important fishing was. They just knew. And it was like part of the Declaration of Independence. It was part of the deal. It's part of the deal in California. And how we got so far away from that now, it's like probably one of the most important things to take from this. When you guys go down this rabbit hole and you see what we're talking about, and you learn that George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, our forefathers, the founding fathers of our country were such outdoorsmen. To think that we're ready to just throw that away right now?
No, it's not. It's in our DNA. I mean, it's part of it's in our DNA as human beings. I mean, we're gatherers, we're hunters, we're farmers, we're fishermen. You know, it's just part of who we are. And for an extreme leftist mentality to say, oh, we should only interact with nature as an observer, it's insane. You know, protect the resources, care for it, you know, care for your catch. Hey,
Bobby
Hoos.
Wow. I'm technically challenged. Technology was not working in my favor today.
You made it.
Yeah, I apparently somehow was blocked audio and microphone on Restream. I went to AI and got directions, printed it, went back into Restream, but yeah, technology.
Hey, as long as you're not told, all right?
Yeah. But so I missed the first 20 minutes of your show, but I do want to say thank you, Michael, for sending me that link to your sport fishing film. It's like the best Netflix series. I'm going to binge watch it after work tonight. Awesome.
Oh, thanks, Bobby. Coming from you, that means a lot.
Yeah, 4 years in the works. You did an amazing job, and that footage is just off the charts.
It's pretty cool seeing all that stuff come to life, isn't it? Very
cool. And, you know, the linen line, the leather drag pad, and bamboo rod, and, you know, interesting comment here. I was reading an old Tuna Club book, and what a lot of people don't realize in the Southern California community is that, you know, the kite fishing with flying fish for bluefin was invented right here in Catalina Island, George Farnsworth. But the way they did their kites back in the, you know, 1890s was they didn't have a separate kite rig. There was actual 9-thread linen tied onto a kite, a silk kite, and then they would separate the 3 threads of the 9-thread and tie just 2 threads onto the main line. So on the bite, the kite would break and it would sink into the water. While they're fighting the fish, they got to circle back and pull up that silk kite out of the water. So,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, a lot of people didn't realize that, you know, everyone assumed they had a separate kite outfit, but they did not. They tied their kite line to the main line, and on the bite, the kite would sink into the ocean, and it was silk. And then, you know, the captain would have to dry it out on the bridge for the next deployment. So fascinating stuff.
Yeah, it really is cool.
Real quick, just so everyone knows, this is Bob Hoos. Bob Hoos is the #1 representative for Costa Sunglasses on the West Coast. We're very happy to have Bob join us here today. We got a bunch of big trade shows coming up. I think it's appropriate to bring Bob in. But the other thing about Bob and Michael is they're members of the Elite Tuna Club over in Avalon. And this club has so much going on. When you walk in the club, you feel it like in your soul. You feel it down to all the way down. And these two guys are part of the club. And I wanted Bob to come on today with Michael to, talk about Costa Sunglasses a little bit, but talk more about the history of sport fishing. That's why I wanted you to come. I love your sunglasses, Bob. You know, I wear them every single day. I don't even know how many pairs. And you gave me a pair of those new ones last year, which the King Tide are an absolute incredible product. I just can't get over it. But the other stuff that you bring to the table, you and Michael sitting here talking this tuna club stuff. This is what everyone really wants to hear. We got your sunglasses. We're all wearing Costas, and we know how bitchin' they are. And we'll talk about it a little bit, but let's talk more about the tuna club and what you two guys got going on over there.
Well, go ahead, Bobby.
Oh, I would just, I read a lot of the old books from the club about, the fishery, the peak in the, 1930s. And if you look at the number of shots that they had during the season, and typically it was end of May through August, and then they would switch to looking for striped marlin and broadbill. But if you look at the weight of the fish, and not so much what was brought in because of the different tackle, but the fishery that we have now is good, if not better, than it was in the 1930s.
I think yeah, go ahead.
The good old days are now as far as that fishery. I mean,
the last 10 years have been as good as it was 120 years ago.
Yeah. So we're seeing, close to 100 years cycle of fishing bluefin that is just as good as it was back in the 20s and 30s.
Yep.
And we have better tools to catch them, but and Dave, this every year, the Tuna Club has their annual Linen One tournament, and that tournament you can only fish with bamboo rods, linen line, and reels that were pre-1940. And that's when you call Michael Folks and go, "Hey, I'm fishing the tournament. I need gear."
Exactly.
You still have
the background. That's our tackle right there.
Yeah. You still have that rod with the
oh yeah, board? Yeah. It's got a constant bend in it, and so like that is fun traditional stuff that the Tuna Club does. And what Dave was saying earlier is it's not only a group of great fishermen, but the friendships and business connections at the Tuna Club, and just being a part of the Avalon community, it's special to my heart. I love everything about the club, and it's super fun when I take guests or clients over to Avalon, and I always throw in a tour of the club after fishing. And we could have a good day on yellowtail or some sea bass, and I give them a tour of the club and show them all the books and photos, and have a cocktail in the bar. And coming home, they're always like, the highlight of the trip was Tuna Club tour, not that yellowtail or that sea bass or even a tuna. They're like, man, just being in, getting a tour of that club was the highlight of my trip.
You can feel the energy, the history coming up through the floorboards of that club. When you're standing on that deck, you can actually feel the history breathing through the floorboards in that facility. It's just absolutely amazing. It's such a tribute to the sport, and it's such an honor to be a part of it. To be a part of that history.
And the challenges that those guys had, like back in the days, and Michael can talk more about this. He's an expert on this subject, but after these guys would go fishing for the day and they get dropped off at the club, they had to strip their linen line on these wood dowels that would dry the linen for the next day of fishing. Otherwise you would get mold, and the linen would start deteriorating. So after each day of fishing, strip all your line off on a wooden dowel in the club, let it dry, and then reel it all back on. Jump on the boat, and you're at it again.
Every day they had to do that. That linen line, if it stayed on the reel and stayed compressed, it would be like taking a T-shirt and getting it wet and then balling it all up. It just starts to rot. It starts to stink because it's basically just cotton. It's a natural fiber. So they had to dry those fibers out every single day. It's a lot of challenge fishing the historical gear. I'll tell you that. It's more work getting it prepped than it is catching the fish.
And explain to people why linen, why all this? Because we're talking that the 1800s. We're talking the beginning of fishing, gang. I want Bob and Michael to talk to you guys because a lot of you are probably going, what are you talking about? Linen. What is this? Talk about that for a minute. I mean, when you go to Michael's house, Bob, you know, it's almost like going to the tuna club. It's like, whoa.
Tuna Club South, but Michael, you've got so much knowledge on the linen line, and that's what was available back in the days. Why don't you explain like the timeline of linen, and then when Dacron came about, and then monofilament, and of course we all know when Spectra entered the market. So what's the timeline on that?
Well, the first fishing lines were all woven from horsehair, the tails of horses. They would take horsehair from the tails of a horse and weave that together. And that was what the first fishing lines were. And then the Chinese came up with some silk line. So they started making silk lines, weaving silk line. And I think the linen basically sort of evolved from, in the dates I'd have to remember, 1800s, late 1800s, they started weaving flax and linen together and creating a line made out of plant. It was a plant-based material. So, it was just, and in linen, we talk about, breaking at 60 pounds or 80-pound test or whatever. Linen comes in threads, like Bob was saying, and each thread was about just under 3 pounds, would break at 3 pounds. So they take 3 threads of 3-pound test and weave those together, and you come up with a 3-thread, which was basically what was that, 10-pound test, Bobby? 9-pound test, 8?
Yeah, 9, 10 pounds. Yeah.
And so then they take the 3 threads and then they do those together, and you have 6 thread. So they double that down, and then it was 9 thread and 12 thread and 24 thread. So it was, every fiber was just woven together individually. It was pretty amazing. Pretty amazing evolution of the development line.
I would say like so the listeners can understand, linen, when you're fighting a fish, it feels like Spectra. There's no stretch at all. So
None.
You're tight to the fish. And when you're fighting these game fish on linen, feels just like Spectra, but an added scare is a lot of times while you're fighting the fish, one thread will break and start unraveling. And as you're fighting the fish, you have these sections of the line that are unraveling, and you're like trying to keep it on the reel below the wraps, and it goes out and you see it unraveling. And it's like, my
your heart
gosh,
sinks.
Just to catch one. And then you have the bamboo rod, which, it's hard to explain the action. It's soft like fiberglass rod, like the old fiberglass rods, but it will bend literally from the tip all the way down to the reel seat. So you're tacoed over, and sometimes it starts splintering, and you're giving the fish a huge advantage on every level. And then the reels, Michael would know a lot about the gear ratios. All the ones I fished are like 2 to 1 or less. I mean, it's almost like you're cranking 1 to 1. And so, man, you catch a bluefin on linen tackle, a striped marlin, it's a feat. I mean, everything's not in your favor.
No, and it's such a feeling of satisfaction when you're actually able to do it. When you go through all the prep of getting your vintage tackle ready to fish, which is a chore in itself. The rods, a lot of these old wooden rods are just brittle. They've dried out over the years. And the bamboo, it's a stiff rod. Even the softest rods are, like you said, there's no shutoff point. They bend all the way down to the butt of the rod. And then getting the reels, the drags all cleaned up and ready to go. And it's just the linen. It's a whole process preparing your gear, and then to be able to actually catch a fish on the linen gear, it's one of the most satisfying moments in my life when I got my qualifier on old gear. That was a pretty cool deal.
You read about the old, the tuna club trips, and back in the 20s and 30s, they fished a lot like the sport boats and the private boats today when they're looking for big bluefin. They would just go out, searching, no binoculars, no electronics, no sounder, no sonar,
No
no
radio. Right.
charts. It was all just eyeballs, a couple guys looking, and they would go out searching for these bluefin. When they would see the bluefin, they no electronics, so it had to be a visual confirmation there's some bluefin. Then they had to get that silk kite up, and they'd let the flying fish out and then tie the kite line onto the main line, hopefully get the silk kite up, and then try to skip that flyer in front of the school. And I mean, they were against all odds, but man, they caught some impressive fish.
I think one of the coolest stories about George Farnsworth, when he invented the kite, for the first couple of years that he had it, he'd have his passengers swear to secrecy that they wouldn't tell anyone what they were doing. And for a couple of years, George Farnsworth was just killing it, and nobody else knew what he was doing until finally on the 4th of July in 1911, he flew the kite through Avalon, proclaiming and that was really when he made the announcement to the world that that's the technique that they've been using to catch the bluefin. So it's
and that's a great part of the history of sport fishing. Michael talks about it in the docuseries, gang. And the thing is so funny is because there's so many modern fishermen that think they invented this whole kite thing, and it was going on before their parents were born.
Yep.
George was the whole Farnsworth thing. And Bob, to think about what you were saying, no binoculars, nothing. And
Nothing.
George was doing it on an old wooden boat with a sail for a rudder kind of thing. It was just the craziest old boat. When you look at all the stuff that Michael shows you on the history of sport fishing, everything we're talking about today is covered in there. The line, the drag systems, the 1-to-1, 2-to-1. Michael talks about the knuckle busters. Bob, you've got to experience that fishing with that antique tackle.
That's 1-to-1, baby, and that's a direct drive. Those reels, those handles would spin backwards.
Try to grab that, right, Bob, when your tuna's taking a run?
It's just like, and here we are 100 years later, and we're getting our flying fish, we're going out, we're flying the kite. I mean, it parallels what these founders invented and perfected, and here we are 100 years later doing the same thing.
And Chase Offield talks about it in the film. He says they're using the exact same techniques, tackling gear, techniques, not tackling gear, but the same bait, the same techniques that they did 100 years ago. So it's pretty cool. We've added helium and lead to the mix, so it changes things a little bit.
Well, I mean, that brings up a great question. You guys know how hard it is flying a kite out here, even with helium. I mean, I struggle sometimes. I got helium balloon and all the trick stuff, a separate electric reel, and I'm trying to get that kite up. They had none of that, just a silk kite, with sticks, and, get that thing up. And, then on your bite, you have to circle back and try to find that silk kite in the water. And, you're fighting the tuna on that tackle and scoop that thing up, let it dry, and try to catch another one.
It's amazing.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, Cubby, we'll get that series over to you. Cubby Paul just got out of the hospital. He's recovering. Michael, gnarly stuff he's been going through. He's a world-class captain. He should be in the IGFA Hall of Fame. He won the Bisbees. We're going to get you that, Cubby, so you can lay there and recover in bed and watch the history of sport fishing. Absolutely, we'll get that over to you, buddy. Bob, before we get any further down the rabbit hole of this history of sport fishing, what's going on with Coast? Are you going to be at the Pacific Coast Sport Fishing Festival?
Oh yeah, Bill's show. We're actually starting to plan that right now. Of course, that's our favorite and biggest show, in the whole country is the PCS show, and it's right by my house, so it's it's easy for me. That show, we got usually the Hawaiians come over, Bomboy Lannis and his brother Ronnie come over. They stay at my house, and we make pokey, in the evenings, and it's seeing all the industry people. We'll have all the new frames, new lens colors, and yeah, if you're at the show, we'll be there. Come by, and we'll help you get set up for a pair of Costas. We're just
And
talk fishing, man. I'm always up to talking about anything.
And the Pacific Coast Sport Fishing shows the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th at the Orange County Fairgrounds, gang. Bob will be there. Michael's going to make a guest celebrity appearance in my booth. We don't know which day. So what I would do is buy a ticket for every day in case you want to meet Michael. But the thing about the PCS show, gang, is it is a massive show. Like Bob said, it's right down the street from his house. You guys definitely want to attend. I'll be there. All of my guides will be there. We got a big 20-foot booth. We'll be right outside the doors where our stage is, where we're doing our seminars every day. Bill DePriest puts on. Bill has taken this thing to such a bitchin' level, right, Bob, Michael? We've all been there since the very beginning with him.
Yeah. Like Bill's shows, my friends that call and say, "Hey, you're gonna be at the show," and they go, "When should I come?" And I go, "You could spend all day there. You could literally show up in the morning and walking around, going to your seminars, Dave. All the the captains are talking about the fishing subjects we want to hear about. They're awesome guests. Bill always has the top notch guys and girls that are doing seminars, and then all the tackle. And I mean, you're a kid in a candy store, and you can grab a beer, in the center there. You can have the food. It's just check out boats.
You got the trout pond for the kids.
It's got everything. Yeah, it's got everything, and
it's so well laid out.
Yeah,
the vibe is well laid out.
It's just a good vibe in Orange County. I mean, you get a good group of people, and we've never had any problems at PCS. It's our best show, and this year I think people are going to be ready to shop. I mean, I'm already getting calls like, "Hey, I got one pair of Costas with this lens color. I'm looking for a second pair. What do I want?" And so you're feeling like the energy coming forth for this show. It's going to be huge.
I think so too.
I know it will be. And the really cool thing about all the guests we always have on the show, gang, is now you're getting to see who Bob Hoos is. So when you go to the Costa booth, you already know who Bob is. You've listened to him talk a little bit today. This will be definitely not the last time he'll be on the show, but this gives you an intimate into Bob's life and how dedicated he is to our industry and the fishing. So when you come and you see Bob and you go, "Hey, I saw you on the show, and oh my God, I want to talk about the Tuna Club." Because like Michael and Bob just told you, gang, you can feel it when you walk in the building. It comes from the floor. The original floorboards are there. Even though they had that fire, they still kept those original floorboards. It's an amazing place. And then you get to come and talk to Bob, who's in the Costa booth. Now you already have a relationship with him because of the show. That's the unique thing about what we do over here at Your Saltwater Guide. Everybody that's in the industry is going to want to talk to you. Bob wants to talk fishing, like he just said.
Yeah. The thing I like about the PCS show, unlike some of the other arenas that we do, is we're right behind Fisherman's Landing and then the doors to the central area. And so guys are asking us about different lens colors, and we can literally go, "Hey, this frame fits your face. Let's walk outside the doors and be in the sunlight," and you can see the difference of the different lenses. So we almost got like a on the water, we're on the land, field testing at our booth. And on top of that, there's all sorts of crazy show specials with your purchase. I know Fisherman's Landing last year did a gift with a gift card at Fisherman's Landing. So after you get your Costas, you get a gift with purchase from us. And then you walk over to Fisherman's Landing, you got a gift card to, buy some fluorocarbon hooks, the new knife jigs, whatever. And just a lot of smiling faces walking out of there. And I'm looking forward to it.
Hey, Bob, Seawolf just made a comment in here and asked us if would we be allowed to use a drone to make a presentation on Tuna Club gear?
Tuna Club, I don't know, but I've followed that a bunch. The guys that are good with the drones, and the thing, it works. I mean, you can shoot that drone over to the school of tuna and get the bite. The problem that they've had is like a release failure on the line, like an AFCO roller troller, and the line sometimes gets tangled or hung up on the clip, and then you get a bite. The tuna takes it down, takes the drone down, and Tom Flager, the late Tom Flager, was really good at it with the drone, and we watched him simply crush some of these schools that were boat shy, get the drone out over them, drop the flyer on it. But a lot of guys lost expensive equipment when the release would fail and it'd take the drone down and eventually break off, and there goes your drone.
The hardest thing about a drone that I've learned working on yachts, and everybody wants to come out and bring their drone, it's all fun and games till you try to land the drone back on the boat when the boat's jumping up and down and you're the greatest drone pilot in the world until the platform that you're trying to land it on is moving. And it is a mess. And Bob and Mike and I are hooked up to a big tuna, and you're screaming at us because your $3,000 drone, we can't land it on the bow because the wind's blowing 15 and the boat's jumping up. And no, it's not an effective way to fish for tuna. It looks really bitchin' from the land. It looks real cool from the beach. But when you're on the boat, on the ocean, it's a whole different thing. And that platform to land it on sucks. Yeah. And we can't have time to listen to you crying about your drone when we're trying to catch that big, especially with antique tackle. Could you imagine, Bob? Hold on, Bob. Let the knuckle buster go while I land my drone. What? What?
I got some tech savvy guys that have drones, know how to fly them. And when they're on the boat and we're fishing, I say, look, we're going to do our program. If you want to get some good footage, with a GoPro, knock yourself out. But I'm not, if you lose contact with the drone, I'm not, and we're on a bite, I'm not chasing it down, but you want to take photos, you're the designated photo guy, put the GoPro on, knock yourself out. But, I'm not going to go chasing a down drone and trying to find it. But
we learned a valuable lesson that the first drones that we bought were like $5,000-$6,000 drones, and they have a setting, return home, which we thought would be a great setting to have on it. So we launched the drone with the return home setting on the Shogun at Guadalupe Island as we were running up the island. And so when the battery got low, we were bringing the drone into land, and the battery got low, and it was and it just turned around and raced back to where we were and hit the deck. So
where you were, and it
hit great footage. Lost the whole drone that works because we had the wrong settings on. So flying a drone on the water on a moving platform is a challenge. Like I think somebody just wrote up, Jason said you got to be a Navy pilot to land one of those babies on a boat. That's true.
And it's not like Bob was just saying, gang, when everyone goes, oh, can you use the drone to spot a kelp petty? Can you use the drone to find the tuna? No, because Bob's in a pair of gyro stabilizing binoculars. Michael's in a pair. I'm in a pair. We're staring at water. And then you're like, the drone's 45 degrees, 3 miles from us. And you're like, really? We're going to have to wait a minute. Bob's got a swordfish right here on the bow. Yeah, but my drone, it's 3 miles over there. It doesn't work, gang. It's not going to work. It's not practical. But if you have a few extra $1,000 just to throw in the trash, come on out.
Yeah.
They take some great pictures, though.
I got a question for Dave and Michael as well. Is when the water, cold water winter, like a La Nina condition, no rain. I surfed just 2 days ago. Water was 57, not fun, but you're seeing a lot of anchovies in all the receivers. Long Beach, Dana, San Diego. I was just down in San Diego, and he said the bait boats are running all the way up to Long Beach Harbor to try to get sardines for the longer trips. And so you're seeing this anchovy back, and there is an entire generation of kids that have never fished with an anchovy. And I know, Dave grew up in the anchovy years, Michael as well. And it's two-part. One, we have innovative tackle and the reels and the rods, the lines. We're going to be able to cast those chovies, but there's going to have to be a whole seminar on the hook size, how to hook an anchovy, how to fish an anchovy. It's going to be exciting. The anchovies come back, and guys like Dave and Michael that grew up, the albacore days, sand bass.
It was all anchovy.
And there's going to be so many people on sport boats going, I can't nose hook this thing. It doesn't have yeah, how do I cast it? But Dave, what's your thoughts on the anchovy fishing, and how do we educate this generation that's never fished them before?
I'm so glad you brought that up, Bob, because you grew up in that same era that Michael and I grew up in, and the anchovy was the key to the whole thing. Because the cool thing about an anchovy is when you get bit, you hook up. With a sardine, when you get bit, you get a nibble. You got to let them run 3, 4, 5 seconds. You got to kind of help them eat the bait. With the anchovy, it's an instant gratification. It's an instant bite. But now you're going to have to come down. You're going to have to come down to the 30-pound braided line or the 40-pound braided line, and then a piece of fluorocarbon or monofilament, 15-pound, 20-pound, and number 4, number 2 hook. Thin wire so the anchovy can swim. But like you said, Bob, the technology that we have today is going to be epic. You're going to have a little bit longer rod than you've been fishing with. You're going to have a little bit softer tip. But the reels today, they're set up for casting an anchovy. Oh, baby. That's the things with the smooth. Remember one night you had to have a 146.7. You had to have the Squidder Junior with the plastic spool, and then you had to put nail polish around the spool so it didn't eat your 12 or your 15-pound.
Oh, yeah.
196.7 real soft tip rod.
Oh, yeah. And today, it's just going to take a little bit of seminar type of thing, like a long-range trip. You're going to have to do that on the half-day boat and the three-quarter-day boat. But the scariest thing we're behind right now, Bob, that we need to talk about, we talk about it on this show every day, is we're right on the cusp of, we're in a cold water cycle. The sand bass are coming back. The barracuda are coming back. The bonita are coming back this year. But they're not going to let us catch sand bass. It's just the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. June 1st is when the Fish and Wildlife want to shut off the sand bass fishery, which doesn't make any sense. They're a migratory fish. And they love anchovies. They love them. People go, oh, we're not catching any sand bass right now. Well, we're trying to feed them 7-inch sardines. They can't eat it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's cyclical.
I wasn't aware of that. And I want to bring up hooks with anchovies. One of the listeners put a comment up there. And it's been my experience, and I can't wait to hear Dave's answer on this, is if I have a tank of anchovies, I'm over at Catalina with friends, family, kids, bass, barracuda, bonita, maybe a small yellow. I noticed that if I had a small J hook, that I am just on the deck with needle nose trying to get a J hook out of every 12-inch calico bass, that's gut hook. And a lot of them I just cut off and let them go. And then I switched over. I was talking to Steve Carson, and he goes, Bob, try these hybrid owner light wire circle hooks, little small ones, like number 2, number 4s. And I brought a box over to Catalina, same scenario, kids on the boat, spinning gear, bass, barracuda, bonita. And it didn't matter if they were allowed the fish to eat. Every single fish was right in the corner. Little from 8-inch bass to 16-inch bass, every single one was in the corner. And then it was just like super easy to release them, and they weren't bleeding, and it was much better like getaway from the seals. You know, if you had a bleeder, you release it, the seal would grab it right away. And so I was really happy with that small light wire circle hook anchovies with beginners at the island. What's your take on that, Dave?
That is absolutely the key to the whole thing, is hooking them in the corner of the mouth. You don't want to dig every hook out of the belly of that calico bass. And that small thin wire circle hook, now this is going to require you to hook the anchovy the proper way, because you're going to gill hook it. And nobody even knows how to gill hook an anchovy, but you're going to have a hard time getting that little hook into the nose of an anchovy, that circle hook. It's just the way that it's positioned, but boy, it slides into that collar hooking that you and I and Michael did since we were little kids.
Yep.
That little circle hook's going to slide right into that collar and hook it perfect. So what Bob's telling you all is, yeah, it doesn't matter what company. You could go Mustad, Gamakatsu, Owner, whoever's making that thin wire circle hook. But Lisa, you said a 2-aught or a 4. No, it's going to be a This is a hook you guys have never even, most of you have never even touched. It's a number 4 or a number 2 or even a number 6. We used to catch bluefin all day long at Clemente back in the old days on a number 4 thin wire Mustad bronze hook. And people would go, you can't catch a tuna on a hook like, oh yeah, you can. Yes, you can. Same thing. A lot of you don't understand
that. In 15 or 20 pound string, they wouldn't bite anything heavier.
Yeah. Joe, I noticed one of the listeners, Joe, mentioned to practice with those wood clothespins.
Clothespins, right?
Clips. That's how I learned. My dad was like, "Hey, we're going albacore fishing. You know, here's your 146 on your Saber, 96.7, 12-pound pink Andy. Here's a wood clip cast in the backyard. If you can perfect that when you're out on the boat, you know, you're going to be able to toss that anchovy out."
And it's all about castability. That's the number one thing people cry about right now, Bob, when they get to the bait barge, is they only have anchovies and like,
perfect. Yeah.
I can't cast that. I can't cast that. I get all excited. I'm like, what bait barge has anchovies? We're driving there right now.
Yeah.
Whew.
And, you know, every game fish, like, you know, I had the same question. This guy's like, "Oh, I'm down here in Dana and all they have is anchovies. I'm going to the island." Like, "Oh man, you scored." And it's like, "No, well, you know, they're not good for yellowtail or calicos." I'm like, "Okay, you're a you know, a lure fisherman. You like throwing the swim baits and, you know, all the trick stuff. Get a couple scoops of anchovies and just float those kelp lines, chumming the anchovies, and then throw your swim bait in." And, you know, he called me after the trip and he's like, "Oh my gosh, it just ignites little areas that have no life. You throw a little dipper anchovy in there and all of a sudden, boom, bass are up, yellows come through, bonita, of course." So yeah, I mean, if they have anchovies, oh man, you're like, cha-ching, we're gonna have a good day.
We years ago we were on a long range trip with Tommy on the Polaris Supreme, and that forward bait tank, he wasn't going to put anything in it. And I said, "Tommy, would you put some anchovies up there for me?" And he goes, "What?" And I said, "Yeah, fill that tank with anchovies." He goes, "All right, I don't care." So they filled it with anchovies, and the wahoo went nuts over the anchovies.
Oh yeah,
they wouldn't eat a sardine or even a small mac, but boy, you put an anchovy out there and it just foamed on it. It's like candy.
That's what I say all the time on my website. When there's anchovies, gang, you know what eats anchovies? Everything. Marlin, wahoo, dorado, swordfish, calico bass, yellowtail, everything eats them. But the thing nowadays, what you're going to want to do, like you and I did, Bob, when we were young, and Michael, you go over to the island now and are on the way over there, you jiggle up some mackerel under a kelp patty. You're going to use your Promar sabiki rod. You're going to use the sabikis. Now it's going to be super important. Those of you that can only fish bigger bait, you grab the anchovies for chum, and then you jiggle up some bigger bait, jiggle up some mackerel, jiggle up some sardines. And so you're going to want to go to Promar, like we talked about before. You're going to want to get a sabiki rod, and you're going to want to get a handful of sabikis so you have them, so you can always jiggle up some bigger bait. So this was a perfect segue, and I know you didn't even mean to do it, Bob, but thank you, because Promar is our sponsor on Tuesday, and you guys have to have a sabiki rod.
I have 2 of their Promar sabiki rods that I got at the show years ago, and I keep them on my boat. They're up on, the salon, and they're amazing because you always have a designated, bait outfit for catching bait. And, you're not going to snag your head on a hook, and,
nothing's getting tangled. It's not wrapping around the guides, and it's all sucked into the rod.
I just yell down to the crew, if I need her some mackerel or even sardines, I'm like, okay, grab the bait outfits and start jigging, and they're all ready to go. And it's just, man, it makes life easy.
It's stories.
Yep. Think about back when the 3 of us started fishing 4 flies, Lucky Joe's, and you get to fish with it once, and then you would like wrap it around your Budweiser can or whatever, or your Shasta soda can, and then you try to untangle it when it's time to fish bait again. That invention of the sabiki rod was a game changer, right, guys?
Yeah. Amazing.
Because most of the sabikis were one-time use.
Yep.
Speaking of sabikis, I don't know if you guys know this, but Cubby makes the best sabiki type, like little feathers in the world.
Feathers.
I mean, I was down in Cabo, and Marlon were biting. It was all bait, December up on the Golden Gate, and he gave me his custom red, little feathered sabikis, and I was out fishing everyone. Hopefully Cubby's listening, but man, those things.
He's right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's right here on the show. There's his comment. So fun, guys.
Yeah. Great changer.
Great bait rigs. Great bait rigs.
You can put cut pieces of bait on, Alex. It's not necessary. When you find some mackerel on a kelp patty or something, it's whatever gets to them first. They're going to eat that. It's kind of cool. But yeah, putting bait on helps sometimes. But boy, it sure does make the salon stink bad when you wind that bait back into the rod and put it in your salon.
I think even more effective is if you're chopping up some anchovies or sardines to make bait with, chop them up into little teeny pieces and use those for chum and not actually put them on the hook. I think a lot of times you just get those fish excited with a little bit of chunk bait on the water, more so than having it on your sabiki, especially the little light ones, those silk feathers.
I would also say that the surf perch guys turned me onto this. We were out trying to catch mackerel right in front of Newport, and sabikis, chumming cat food, and these guys on a little skiff were catching much better than us. The water was cold. We just had a wind event, and bait was tough. And we finally backed up and said, okay, boys, what's going on over here? And I recognized some of them, down the beach. They like to surf fish. And the gulp sandworm, they would put a little piece of gulp sandworm on the sabiki, and they wouldn't jig it. They just hold it like hopefully in the chum, and the mackerel would, when it's tough, they would eat that little gulp sandworm on your sabiki.
Good tip. Good tip. And I think adding the cat food's a really good mix too. Sort of a slush, 5-gallon bucket of slush funds.
Yeah. Thank you, Cubby. It's always a pleasure having you on here, and you and Bob have a bunch of history. It's good to see you on here, little buddy. Bob, what can people expect to see from Costa? Is there anything new coming down the pipe? Is there anything exciting besides all the specials you're going to have at the PCS show? Is there anything else that we can look forward to seeing?
Yeah, so to start, our big launch middle of last year was the Gold Mirror lens. And the Gold Mirror lens is a little lighter, meaning it's going to let more light in than the green mirror. So top of the order as far as, allowing the light to penetrate the lens and brighten things up. It goes blue mirror, then gray, then green mirror, and now our new gold, and then sunrise silver. So of the spectrum of colors lens, that new gold is a little bit lighter than green, and a lot of guys are wearing the green mirror now. Like everyone from like Steve Lasley, offshore trips, to the guys, the dock rats, fishing spotties, sight fishing. That green mirror has come on strong. But on an overcast day in Southern California, from April to like middle of July, we got June gloom, overcast days, and they want a little more light, a little more, they want the colors to pop. So the engineers came out with this gold mirror. So that's going to be the new thing, the new lens color to look at the PCS show, is check out our new gold mirror. And then as far as the ladies go, we've had, so many requests like, hey, you guys do so many cool styles for men. What about the women? And then, so we started developing lady styles, and then they're like, no, not only for like lifestyle, we're fishermen. We want a woman's frame for fishing. And, we want a little wrap. We want, so it, when we have our hat on, it's, I can still wear my sunglasses. So we came out with all sorts of new styles for women. And then there's going to be some new stuff that I'm not allowed to talk about until the show. And we're going to keep that like in the box, but we have 2 new frame launches, especially the younger crowd is going to love. And they're like, Bob, don't announce it till the show. So keep your eyes open for that gold mirror, 2 new frame styles, and a lot more options for women.
Well, you can talk about it. No one listens to our silly show, Bob. You can talk about it here.
Yeah, you won't have a job.
No, they want to keep it like, they want to launch it at the show. So they're like,
no, I know. I'm just kidding.
Big reveal.
But it's gonna be fun. And again, the reason I really like the PCS show is you can put your your Costas on, walk outside, and look at each lens color that's gonna fit your eyes. And it's a preference. Some people, like, I have sensitive eyes to the sun, so I like a green mirror or a blue mirror or even the gray. And other guys are like, my eyes aren't sensitive to the sun. I want a lighter lens. I want sunrise silver or a copper silver mirror or the gold. So it's like every head's different. Every lens color is different. And yes, we will have the RX, which is prescription, at the show, Charles, at PCS show. We're going to have our Costa authorized optometrist in the booth. So if you're wearing prescription, you can bring your prescription in, and they'll get you all dialed in. And if not, I think they can do it right there at the show.
And then Tim Ogilvy asked about the scratch resistant. Tim, I'm super hard on them too, but Bob, go ahead.
So most of our guys and gals are wearing a glass lens, and you can take your card key on a glass lens and scratch it right on, rub it right against the lens. It's not going to scratch. If you go with the polycarbonate, it's a much lighter lens. It's less expensive. You're going to have problems with scratch. So, for example, if you're fishing and you're on the beach and you're in and out of your car, your boat, you just go with the glass. If you're golfing or riding your bike and you want something lighter, on your face, go with the poly. But of all the Costas I own, and I have a lot, they're all glass.
Yeah,
Do you find, Bob, that the copper lens gives you a little more vision into the water, like below a
Yes,
patty?
copper. So that the copper base on any of our lenses, it brings in that color in the spectrum that pops the colors. So in all Costa lenses are polarized. So the polarized lens allows you to see under the water, but it's that copper, like what you find in the green mirror is a copper base. The gold mirror is a copper base. Copper silver mirror, of course, is a copper base. It pops the colors. So not only are you looking under the water, any like a there's a color spot. That copper will make those colors underwater pop. Whether it's a yellowtail, a marlin, a calico, the colors are going to pop when you're wearing green, gold, and copper silver mirror, and that can be a game changer, whether it's underwater or above the water. Just having like a turnbird pop, the white on a blue background sky, just that little bit of pop in the white is going to pop. And you're like, oh, there's a turn. Oh, there's a feeder underneath. Oh, there's a kelp patty. That golden brown kelp with any copper based lens. You're looking, and all of a sudden your eye just catches the color, and you're like, oh, there's one right there.
Yeah, in the mornings, that kelp patty thing's so hard. And when Lasley and you talked about the green mirror, oh my gosh, gang, you can't even comprehend. It is hard as a professional captain to find kelps in the morning in the gray light. It's just it's brutal. And then when Laz was talking about that, and he's like, Hansen, you got to try this. And then you were on the show with Ricky on Let's Talk Hookup talking about it. And I was like, okay, I'm got to go do it. And it's a game changer, gang. And it's hard to imagine, but all of a sudden that kelp just lights up a little bit lighter, Mike. You're just like, what the heck? It's just amazing. And yeah, the 580 glass is a game changer by far, gang. If you are using that the plastic lenses, when you have that glass lens, it is an absolute, like Cubby just said, no time to not use glass. And you'll find out, especially if you're out there on the water. Now, are my glass lenses leaving to go drive around in my car or on my bike? No, they're for the boat. They're for out on the ocean. But then you got the poly for when you're cruising around. They're a little more, but the glass is king when you're fishing.
Right. And Dave, that brings up a good question. I get asked all the time at the show. They're like, Bob, I'm thinking about a second pair of Costas. And the first question I ask, or first pair, is I go, do you own a boat, or are you a passenger on a sport boat or a charter or a guy? And if they say I own a boat, I'm like, well, then you're responsible for finding the fish for your group, your passengers. So you're going to want to go with a blue mirror, a green mirror, gold mirror lens to help you spot signs to catch more fish. If you're, no, I only fish on a sport boat, well, I'm like, okay, well, then you're going to have a polarized lens with Costa, so you're going to be able to look under the water. You might just go with a gray lens so you can wear them on the beach and look cool, and you wear them on the boat, and it's going to cut the glare, and you're going to be able to see underwater. So I do a lot of questions on these customers, like, hey, if you're on a sport boat or you run charters, you're not responsible for seeing everything, then you can go with a gray lens and do fine.
It's a more soothing lens for your eyes too, I think, isn't it, Bobby? The gray?
Well, the thing about the gray lens is all the colors are going to appear as you naturally see them. There's no change in the color. There's no color enhancement, but the polarized technology, that 580 lens, is going to cut the glare Everything's going to be clear, crisp, and no glare, and you're going to see it. A lot of the surfers are the guys on the beach are like, hey Bob, I only fish a little bit, but I'm mostly on the beach, and I just want a good pair of Costas, and they usually go with gray. Unless you want to look like Florida guy on the beach with, blue mirror and green mirror.
Yeah, it's an important tool though, Bob. It is a very important tool to have on your boat, is a very, very good pair of sunglasses. And why? Well, because that sun is absolutely burning the retina of your eye. If you have a crappy pair of sunglasses and your pupil's wide open because it's trying to look through a crappy pair, gang, you're burning your retina. That's why these 580 glass, it is such a protection for your retina, gang. When you're out there looking, that's what the thing is about sunglasses that I didn't understand until I went down the rabbit hole when they started to put me on as a pro staff, and I started to read more about why that 580 is so important, is because of the protection of your retina, which when your retina's done, you're done. And that's the cool thing about Costa, is they went a step further, and they teach you why it's so important to have a good tool in your box. And those sunglasses, think about all those days where George Farnsworth was driving around on the backside with no sunglasses.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
The optics too. I think the optics, the clarity of the lens is really critical. But you've got to have a really good, clear optic. And I know the glass gives you the best.
Yeah. 2 quick answers to the questions. Devo Cruz, he won a pair of sons in the Air Force. That copper silver mirror is one of our best sellers. That's a copper base with a silver mirror in the front or the top layer, and copper silver mirror is, you get the best of both worlds. That mirror lens is going to block the glare, and then that copper is going to pop the colors. I can see how it works well for those Air Force guys. And then the fly fishing question, DB Customs. Yes, our fly guys our fly fishing customers, very particular about what they wear. And I would say about 75% of them wear the green mirror. And now a lot of them are getting into that gold mirror for low light conditions, early morning, late in the day. Check out our sunrise silver mirror. That's a very, it's on of the spectrum of lenses. It'll allow the most light in. So you want to go overcast days. A lot of our sport boat captains that are, that we support are wearing sunrise silver mirror, because they're in the wheelhouse, enclosed wheelhouse, so they have some coverage from the sun, and they're going back and forth from their binoculars or gyros to their Costas. And since they're in the wheelhouse and closed, some of them even have like tinted windows, they don't need a green mirror or a blue mirror or a gray. It's too dark. So they go with the sunrise silver mirror. And just this last year, Samurai on the Angler and Mike Lackey and all these guys down in San Diego, they're like, Bob, I need something for overcast days, early morning, looking for bluefin, and it was all sunrise silver mirror. So that's another one to check out. And I always tell people, like, sunglasses is like building a quiver of fishing rods. You don't jump on a boat with one outfit. So jump on a boat with a couple different selections, and you can adjust to the conditions, and start with one pair and then just, expand your quiver.
And Tim Ogilvie was asking a question that's pretty good, because Bob already talked about they're going to have an optometrist in the booth at the Pacific Coast Sport Fishing Festival. Yeah. Tim, you need to stop by there. This is going to be your big opportunity to go in there and check out what he's got to offer. And he's going to answer that question for you, because Tim's only got one eye. He lost his other eye. So there's going to be a different thing going on that's going to be different than anybody else. And to go into a regular optometrist office and ask them about a pair of fishing sunglasses, they're not going to understand what you're trying to accomplish. But Bob at Costa and his optometrist that he's going to have in there, they're going to be able to answer that, which is a pretty, if you think about it, Michael, that's a pretty bitchin' thing going on at the PCS show, just with Costa, not counting all the other bitchin' shit stuff going on there.
Like Bob said earlier, you could spend the whole day there. I mean, you could go and spend the entire day there and not see everything because there's like Costa's got their optometrist there. Plus they're number one guy. I mean, you're talking to the best in the business. Same with Promar. I mean, they're going to have Ben's going to be there. All his guys are going to be there. So you're really getting to talk to the guys that are making the stuff that you're using and wearing. So it's a phenomenal, more than just a swap meet or going to buy tackle or buy gear. You're getting information. I think that's the lineup that Bill's put together in terms of the seminars. He's got the best in the business talking about everything that they've learned how to do in depth. And then you can talk to them afterwards. So it's a real intimate show. It's a phenomenal event.
Bill's at PCS show, his seminars are so good. When our Costa work schedule comes out, I circle the seminars I want to attend. I'm like, I'm out this hour.
I got to go listen to Hansen.
Dave's talking. I'm going to that one. Leslie's talking. I'm going to that one. So I'm right amongst all you guys at the seminars because I want to see them. And you would never think that you could learn something new, every time, and I always do. Some little thing, something will be talked about, like, interesting. I'm going to try that.
I fished bay bass with my friend Tommy Rogers, and he had outfished me 10-1. And so the first year he has this little competition. He really likes to compete. So he's outfishing me 10-1. And after the first season, he goes, you know what? Your rod's too stiff. The tip of your rod's too stiff. So I got a softer rod tip. That made all the difference in the world. He's still outfishing me 5-1. The next year he says, your hooks are too thick. You need a thin wire hook. So the next year I got a little closer to him. And finally the third year he goes, just go with straight fluorocarbon. So it took him 3 years to give me the tips in order for me to be able to compete with him. And he only give me a little bit of a tip each year. So you go to the PCS show and you get all the tips you want at one place at one time. And really specifically for what your needs are too. So that's what's part of it. Also wanted to thank Dave. Please thank your son, Zach, for the service that he's given all of us as being a member of the Air Force there. So hats off to you and your family and your son for doing what allows us all to do what we do here.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Devo. And listen, the credit card thing isn't even a deal anymore. We all have it on our phone. We swipe anytime we want. That's not even a thing anymore. So Devo, so you know that. Cubby's asking you a question though, Bob. Can you see that?
Yeah. Yes, they do Progressive.
There you go, Cub.
The thing on Progressive is you're limited on the frames with the stuff they have to do on Progressive lens. You can't get like too much of a wrap on the frame. So the RX guy will, if you need Progressive, meet with him and he'll walk you through it and give you your options.
Now, how wonderful is that he's going to be there. I think that is just so spectacular to think of guys like Cubby. And you were talking a minute ago, Bob, about going to the seminars last year when Carl Sabonis, Air Pelakia was awesome. Speaking. You looked in the audience and you were like, Lasley's there, Brett McBride's there.
Everyone was there.
There was like 6 IGFA Hall of Fame captains in the audience. That's the kind of seminars that Bill puts together. It makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. It's so fun. Air Pelakia, Carl, he doesn't do speaking events.
Nope,
he doesn't.
First one.
So when he did that, the who's who of the industry was there. You couldn't get a seat.
I got there early and I was on like the second row and it was all like boat shirts. Every like Highliner commercial private guide it was all boat shirts and jackets. I'm like, oh, I'm in the right room, you know.
Yeah.
It was insane, and it's so fun to just see all. I just love seeing all the new stuff. You know, it's every booth has got what's the new product. You know, go see Michael. You know, check out all his stuff. Go see Dave. Check out all his stuff. Come by our booth. It's just like it's great energy.
It is. It's really, really good energy.
And for guys like Bob and Michael and I to walk around, it's really, that show is very, very hard for us to make any progress walking, because we can't walk 10 feet. We know everybody, they all know us, and we all go on to talk and tell our stories and stuff. I know Kelly's like, no, you can't go to the bathroom. I'm like, I'm just going to go to the bathroom right over there. She's all, no, don't leave.
An hour later, she says she's buried in the booth by herself. You still haven't gone to the head yet.
Exactly. I usually have to send her to get us something to eat, because I know I'm never coming back.
Nope. It's a great show.
It's just a really fun time. So, Bob, where are you going to be located at? In what building? How can they find you?
So if they want to check out costadelmar.com, and they'll bring you up to the website. And then, of course, we'll be at the PCS show March 6th through the 5th.
There's the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Yeah. Orange County Fairgrounds. Can't miss us. We're right behind Fisherman's Landing, and I'm fired up. Please come by the booth, say hi. We'll talk fishing.
Will you have the van there?
We will have we have a 30-foot booth there, and the van will be outside, of course, to bring in product. But what we do at that one, we have a 30-foot backdrop, and then all the sunglasses are in front, and it's standing room only.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. I'm so happy that you guys are on the show with me today. And the History of Sport Fishing, gang, you can pick that up right now. You can binge watch it, get ready for next week's show. Like I told y'all, Michael's going to be with us every Tuesday for as long as he can hang out. And we're going to keep bringing in great guests like Bob Hoos and other people that we all grew up watching Michael inside sport fishing, right, Bob? I mean, it's just an honor and a pleasure to have him with us on the show today, and a plethora of knowledge. But this docu-series that Bob's about to go down the rabbit hole here, you guys got to go check it out. And then we're giving away another tour of Michael at the end of the month. We'll pull another name out of the hat, but you got to purchase this. You have to go to the QR code, purchase this, and then we'll grab another person to go with us for a tour of Michael's museum right there that he's setting in. And then you get to hang out and talk to Michael. When we're doing that, we'll probably end up going to lunch together. He's just a plethora. Just don't bring any sickness. We don't want you coughing all over us. But no, I'm just kidding. But yeah.
Hey, Bob, I wanted to thank you too for the guys at Costa that helped donate some of the footage that we used. Came from some of your Costa Promar pieces that you'd done for the IGFA.
Nice. Yeah, I was checking some things out, and I'm like, that looks familiar, but man, Michael, you've created a monster. I feel like I just found like my favorite Netflix series. I'm gonna just binge watch for 3 or 4 nights and get all caught up and fired up for the shows.
I hope you love it, man. I hope you really enjoy it.
Yeah, it starts out pretty spectacular. Have you seen the beginning of it yet, Bob?
Yep. I'm on series 2.
So there you go. So you know that George Washington and everybody's the founding fathers. This is super important.
Yeah, that was some cool stuff. Dating back to what is it, 4,000 years or something, and they're drawing fishing lures and bone carvings, and oh my gosh, it's
cool stuff.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Dave keeps referring to the Schuylkill Fishing Club, which was formed in 1732 by the guys that wrote the Declaration of Independence and our Constitution, and they all got together under the guise of the Schuylkill Fishing Club, because if they'd been meeting undercover to talk about, the Revolutionary War from the British, they would have been hung. So Benjamin Franklin, George Washington, Paul Revere, these guys were all fishermen, and they met at the Schuylkill Fishing Club to write the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence under the guise of a fishing club. And that's how
That's so great.
Otherwise, they would have been hung for treason. So it's a pretty cool story that our founding forefathers that wrote the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, were all fishermen. That was the thing that really stuck out for me. That was so cool because I thought it was all about, George Farnsworth and Frederick Holder and those guys, Charles Frederick Holder, and Morehouse that caught the first tuna, but it goes way back before that.
Yep, it's a wonderful docuseries. Bob Hoos, thank you very much. We'll see you at the PCS show, gang. Stop by, tell Bob you saw him on our show. Maybe have a little special thank you for him for being on here and explaining to you about the sunglasses. Always pleasure to have you, Bob, and hopefully you can come back on the show again. That would be awesome. I love having you on here.
All right, guys. Dave, thank you again. Michael, good talking with you, and we will see you guys both at the shows. Tight Lions.
Yep. Turn off the news. They're all lying. This is the only place you get the truth. We'll see you tomorrow. We got the great John Bretta, president of product development from Akuma, coming on the show tomorrow. It's showtime, baby. We're bringing in everybody, getting you primed up for shows that are coming up. John will be in the booth at the Akuma booth at the PCS show. He will be our guest tomorrow with the great Bill Varney. We'll be talking all surf fishing and all the new products coming out from Akuma. And then you know who Michael is. Michael will be here next Tuesday with us again. Thank you very much, Bob and Mike, for a great show. And everybody that watched, have a great day. Turn off the news.
Dave, thanks for having us.